Oh, I thought that's how you started the evening, and then you made a radio show.
Well, that usually happens too.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Hey,
we recognize that.
It's Jave and Andy with Tobias from Ghost. So, Tobias, you know this Cardinal guy pretty dang well.
Not that well, though. So I can't really go into what he's all about.
Okay.
As you see, he's not here.
Right.
So he sort of travels separately. And
if you had a hunch, what do you think his favorite Saturday morning cartoon would have been growing up?
Knowing how old he is, that would be early 70s.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming Scooby-Doo. I have no idea.
Scooby-Doo is where I was going to go to as well.
I had a hunch.
Yeah.
I think we all watched Scooby-Doo as a kid.
Pretty much. So, listen, when you started off with the idea, the concept behind Ghost, me as a kid growing up as a musician, I would write, fake band names or whatever on my book covers or in notebooks or whatever else. When did the idea strike you? Because it's been so well executed over the span of the last decade.
With Ghost, or do you mean playing in a sort of supernatural band?
With Ghost. With Ghost is the concept and how it's kind of unfolded like, chapters or movies where there's sequels to the movie, right?
I think it all is a mixture between old ideas that has been around longer than the concept of Ghost has been around, or since that takes shape in my head. That took shape, and before that, I was, ever since I was a kid, I just sat and drew stages and ideas and light rigs, and I've always been very interested in stage production and touring and all that. So that would have applied to any band that I was in. Even my plans for like a band like Repugnant was way bigger than what it ever amounted to. And
so,
it just so happened that once Ghost got going, it was just like, okay, so this is it, and then I just sort of plowed every idea that I had into that, and still now we're sort of crossing out from a very, very, very long list of things that we haven't done yet.
So was there a master plan for all of it? I mean, you because you had these iterations of characters, within Ghost, and it seems to be a progression. Was that a planned progression, or just as it grew organically?
As anything, in any writing, any conceptual thing, it starts looser, and then once you get going, you sort of start perfecting it. That's how it works. That's how all the great masters makes films as well. You write the script, you build the set. Once the actors come in, oh, that line didn't work. Oh, but you said it in a different way now. Can you please do it that way instead? So, okay, let's go back to rehearsals. Let's do it again, because now I got another idea based on what you said or what you look like. So it's never, even like, I don't know, even think that the great masters that the big cinematic masters I know of, they're always very improvisational when it comes to when you're in the scene, because there's so much that you need to feed off of. If you just stick to the script, like as a slave to exactly what the script is like, that's what made Troll 2. That's what happens then. No, you're supposed to say it like this, but I can't. It feels weird saying it like that. I don't care. You're a dog,
Yeah.
And then it becomes really weird because the lines come out in a way that no one would ever say it like that. That made for a really funny film, Troll 2, but not good.
Yeah.
So you have to, and there's the same thing when writing songs, when doing conceptuals for the band. There is so much elasticity that you need to have with it, because you have to change things as you go. So master plan, yeah, I have a plan. I try to stick with the plan, but it's ever changing. It's kind of like being in war.
Yeah.
You know, being a good general is like to know when to change and to retreat and to back off, go sideways.
Yeah.
You know, make another plan. But the end goal is to take that fucking goal, you know, and win. Put
Yeah.
your flag on top, right?
So, tell me about your home life growing up, your mom and dad. You know, what do your folks think about, you know, the concept of ghost and as evil, certainly as it started out as, and now you start, I've seen all the humor that's involved in, you know, a lot of the video work and stuff like that. But what do your folks think about that?
Both my parents are very liberal.
Okay. Dynamite.
So there was never any
They didn't
collisions.
go, wow, you've taken this way too far.
No. There was never any collisions with them ever when it came to you know, being a kid interested in what could have been perceived as negative things. And as a teenager, when I sort of started dabbling with Satanism and black metal and all those things, there was never any sort of negative pushback from them. Quite the contrary. I will not neglect to say that they never raised me together. So I grew up with my mom. My father was he started a new family very, very early on, so I never really experienced them together. But to whatever extent I was hanging out with my dad, he's also very liberal. He's very sort of a creative person. He's retired now, but he's a photographer.
Okay.
So he worked in TV and film and documentary, and
Wow.
and to a great extent, he was also director. And
Right.
wow, and so I mean, there's so many things that I got a lot of the music side from my home with my mom and my bigger brother. But a lot of the cinematic interest comes from my dad, because he was, very interested in cinema, but he was also working not in cinema, but in and especially back then, it was a fine line between that, because back then when I was a kid, they were just starting with video, you know.
Right.
So he was still doing things with film, and you know, when I came to his house, there were still like big old editing desks with like old film rolls, and you know, so I sort of, even though I didn't grow up in that home, but whenever I was there, it was very driven by film, always lenses everywhere, and
What a fun way! What a fun way to see that, and explains kind of your knowledge of that. And you were just talking. Jave's asking about your childhood. I was watching the video for Rats the other night, and you've got some dance moves. Was there formal dance training in your childhood?
There was not a formal education on that. No.
Was it a body double, or was that actually you?
Oh, we used to body double for the still standing shots. Yeah. Yeah. We had someone to come in. You know, whilst when I was done dancing, we had a body double coming in to sort of look relaxed, but in between shots. Yeah.
Could you tell me what your favorite movie is of all time?
No.
No. Okay.
Not that I don't want to tell you. It's just
maybe
that
maybe top
I have
three. I mean, what
top three. I mean,
What kind of movie do you enjoy?
I enjoy many, many different films for many different reasons. In the context of Ghost, I usually end up being asked about horror films.
Sure. Yeah.
But throughout all my life, as I said, I come from a very liberal home, also with an older brother. And so there wasn't really, I'd say, extremely little censorship. If we were watching Scarface, we were, even my, even my mother and brother were sort of educational in that sense. If I watched with my father, he would tell me everything, how everything was done. He would like pause, you see how that, and he would, like,
Yeah.
you see how this is made, and then he like brought up like if it was a big film, like an American film,
Yeah.
he would bring out like cinematography. There was this magazine, I don't know if it's around anymore. It's called Cinematographer.
Okay.
And he would like, this is how they made it, and there's like, do you see how the whole background is sort of not moving?
Mhm.
That's called matte painting.
Huh.
And this is how you do it. And they showed me pictures of matte
Wow.
painting. I was like, wow. And that all of a sudden made, I've ever since I was a kid, ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I've watched films from a very practical point of view. I can switch and just see it from like magic, but I also see it from I see a microphone. I see that, that shadow shouldn't be there. Okay, that's a matte painting. I see the background is not moving. I see that that's a prop.
It's almost a curse, isn't it?
Yeah, but that was the thing. Even when we were watching films with my mom and brother, they would be like, I've known later that it was it depends on the editing. But when we saw Scarface, there's a scene, with that deal that goes wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy is hung up in the bathtub, and they were like, look here, you only hear the sound of the saw,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear him scream, so you never see the saw really go in to. And then I know that there are edits where you can see it sort of close to the head and you see the blood, but you never see it like ISIS style, like
Right.
You
Yeah,
see the whole thing, and which you can see in a whole lot of films. And I remember already then I was just like, wow, that's magic, because it feels like all that happened, even though I didn't see it.
Right.
Same thing with Jaws. I remember my dad was just like, remember now, it's just the music. You just see water.
Mhm.
It's just the same water as if we were out in the archipelago. But the thing that makes you scared is that
Yeah.
and in the beginning there's no shark. It's just underwater
Right.
growth. It's just vegetation underwater.
Mhm.
But it looks so scary because you sort of assume that there's like a corpse there or like an arm or
Well, and you're hearing that music.
and you hear that music.
So, thoughts of making your own film? Are you getting
Of course,
into
if
cinematography?
I know all of course that cinema is split up into many different professions, and out of which I'm educated in none of those. But I would definitely, if I had time, and especially if I had some monetary means doing it, I would definitely entertain the idea of being in more proper filmmaking, but maybe more like maybe like a producer or like a very vocal producer with a lot of script details. But I will never kid myself into thinking that I'm I'm not a photographer, I'm not a director, I'm not a that takes.
Well, congratulations on everything, man. I mean, the evolution of Ghost and this, this band and the project and the storyline, the story arc has been brilliant. It's tough having gotten younger over the stretches of the album, the main character. Where do you go from here? Do you know yet?
Well, I'm going to end up a sperm. That's gonna be that's not gonna be very cool though. It's not. It's gonna be very But that's when we're total has-beens.
Yeah.
Just like a stain on the stage.
The costume will be very easy.
That's
just white.
That makes me think. Isn't that in Shout at the Devil? He's a blood stain on the stage.
You'd be like a
just stain
Smurf.
on the stage. I know where we're going now, and maybe 5 years ahead.
Okay.
And
And that's
then-
about it.
That's about. I mean, it's to draw a parallel to cinema or TV. We're making series. It's
Mhm.
like I believe that the good series are the ones where you. It's kind of like writing a novel.
Yeah.
If you want a really good ending, you start with the ending and then you work your way.
Yeah. I mean, is Walter White really dead?
Well,
and will there become a time where...
I was just going to say that Breaking Bad was good because it ended with an ending. Like,
yeah.
It ended, and it felt like that was a culmination of his very tumultuous last years in his life.
And people were pissed about the ending of The Sopranos. It left so many things like... There was no closure. It was just a black screen. Like, what? That's it?
Right. But I think, and this is not to say that any series that has come to a conclusion that it was not good is shit. However, the really good series are the ones that start and finishes, and then it's finished. Breaking Bad did a master move when they created Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I think that Better Call Saul is almost better than Breaking Bad because Saul Hudson, was honestly the only person in that series, in the original series, that I liked. I disliked everyone else, and he was the only one that had like soul.
Yeah. You could almost be empathetic with, even though he's a con artist, you could be almost empathetic with where he's been in his struggles and always, kind of getting the short end of the stick.
And obviously they picked up on that and they created the spin-off. Great. But if we see that the spin-off as one thing and Breaking Bad as another, I think that Breaking Bad was really good because it really felt like they weren't making it up as they went along. Yeah. Lost?
No doubt.
And but the problem is kind of like a band, kind of like my band that has some sort of narrative, is that I did not know when taking the first 9 steps, between 2006 and 2009, 2010, when the first record came out. I had no idea that this was going to be like a full-time job.
And then, of course, you had that whole issue with some of the nameless ghouls, and
that was later. So, but that was also like a culmination of that, of like everything just moving in a different. It was just you couldn't have made that up.
Yeah.
In 2008, that this kind of band might become this big, like that. So Ghost was in a way the sort of pilot series, the pilot that got airing, and then all of a sudden you got a first series, first season greenlit, and then that becomes a major smash, and then you're like, okay, so then you have to follow that up, and unfortunately you see that with a lot of series, and that means you have to try to create it as you go. So, yeah, I can see 5 years from now, but it's impossible for me to. And also, you have to also remember that I'm not making a series. This is not a series with episodes. We're a band that makes episodes instead of at-home reportages. We do that in order to entertain people. What we do first and foremost is we go around and play music. We're a rock entertainment live act. Right. That is what we do. And on top of that, we sort of season it with a few fun things. But so that there's one professional plan, and then there's one like the one that has grown now and become a funny side note, like funny side thing. And that's the story. That's the narrative. The narrative was not there in 2006. No, that was a band. That was my songs. I had written a bunch of songs, and I wanted to be this experience. So, it's trying to do all the things that you do as a professional band, and the same things as any other professional band do, you play and play and play and play and play. You try to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you try to invest wisely in order to make the show bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we've just started sort of poking around arena-like places. So the good thing about that is that we're able to bring a somewhat consistent production to everyone, which I'm very proud and excited about, because that means that if you live in Sioux Falls, you'll get the same thing as they're getting in Seattle or New York,
right?
or
the big venues.
Yeah,
so do you
that's
see?
that is one step towards doing that everywhere in bigger arenas. And then if you do it in arenas, you want to do it in a bigger place.
Of course.
And that's the professional step. How do
So do you see the storyline? Do you see the end of the storyline like a Breaking Bad? I mean, I know it's always going to be music, and it's always going to be music first and a rock show, but you just talked about how the best series always have a definite ending. Do you have one in your mind somewhere down the road?
I believe I do.
Cool. That'll
That
be
might
exciting.
change.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That you can have firm plans and then you change them.
Tobias, thanks so much for taking some time out today to chat with us, man. This has been really, really cool. It's
Thank you very much.
nice to meet you. I've got one final question. I know you guys have got a crazy rest of your day. There was vicious rumors several years ago that Dave Grohl was one of the nameless ghouls for a short spell.
Right.
Can you confirm or deny that Dave had anything to do with Ghost ever in the history of Ghost?
Well, I can confirm that he had something to do with it because we have recorded with him.
Okay.
And that is not even like a hidden.
Yeah, that's
fact.
common knowledge,
that's
but
common
actually
knowledge.
going out and playing with a mask on?
I have seen him play with a mask on,
Okay.
and that's true. I mean,
It could have been a Kiss mask. Who knows?
yeah.
Tobias from Ghost. It's Jave and Andy with Two Dudes Reviews. Thank you, man.
Thank you.